want to first thank Roberta Villalon for organizing a phenomenal SWS. It's really, truly impressive, along with her compañeras en la lucha, Estel Hernández Medina and Nancy Lopez, my comadres. And I have to really give you guys a round of applause. Can we all just do that? This is, I'm very proud of you. And I'm going to say a little something extra, which is that Nancy Lopez and I have known each other for 30 years officially this year. We went to graduate school together. And as she said in her presentation a couple of days ago, one of our first projects for a conference was work that we did together in a class at the CUNY Graduate Center on Dominican women and welfare. So it's really, truly a pleasure for me to be here today at this table with Nancy. So thank you, Nancy. I also want to say that I'm thrilled to share a conference with Ochi Curiel and Katie Acosta, who are two other Dominican sociologists. And although I am not a nationalist, I'm an anti-nationalist, me siento orgullosa. Okay, so I have to say that. Moving on, I'm here today in my capacity as the editor of the journal Meridians, which I hope most of you have heard about, but if you haven't, I'm going to take 10 minutes to introduce you to it in hopes that you will submit your work to Meridians. You'll encourage your graduate students to submit work, and that you'll say yes when we ask you to review, because that really is key to the success of any and all publishing project in the United States, for better or for worse. So Meridians was established at Smith College 22 years ago now, this year, with the generous support and funding of our president at the time, Ruth Simmons, who I hope, again, most of you are familiar with. Ruth was the first Black woman president of Smith, the first Black president of Brown University, and she came out of retirement to lead Prairie View University, which is an HBCU in Texas, from which she just recently announced her retirement as well. And it was Ruth's belief in the necessity in 2000, which is when the journal was first published, to center scholarship and knowledge production more broadly understood by and about women of color, not only in the US, but transnationally and globally, around questions of feminism and race and transnationalism. And that vision is what continues to guide us today, although we use slightly different language. As you know, our language evolves. I recently participated last fall in a gathering in Geneva on decolonial feminist publishing that included 24 feminist journal editors from across the world, including folks who zoomed in from Korea and China, people who came from Mexico and zoomed in from Brazil, some of the journals that our first presenter mentioned. I was really happy to hear them being named here today. And it was about reinstating a commitment and an understanding that, as the earlier presenter said, most journals, most feminist identified journals are in fact located in the US. Makes sense. US is center of global hoarding, right? And resourcing for that. But there are those of us, Meridians being one, that have been decentering that centrality of whiteness, white feminism, and Europeanity and global Northness. So Meridians has always been committed to that project of decolonial feminist knowledge production that is disciplinary, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and non-disciplinary, and includes creative work, not just conventional scholarship, although we center conventional scholarship because those are the pragmatic needs of our field and institutional context. Our earlier speaker also mentioned Feminist Africa, and I'm really proud to point out that Meridians has been working on a collaboration with Feminist Africa, whose founding editor, Amina Mama, has been on our board for the past 22 years. That is precisely about that kind of decolonial feminist praxis and practice. So just very quickly, a quick history. Meridians has had 4 editors to date. The first was Kumkum Bhavnani, who some of you may know is a sociologist from UCSB, whose work on abolitionism and filmmaking and so forth very much imbued the first 2 issues of the journal. She was followed by Miriam Shansi, who's a scholar at Scripps in Claremont, California, and as you may know, is a Haitian feminist scholar, poet, writer, and researcher who's documented the work of Haitian feminisms. And the longest running editor today, our beloved Paula Giddings, who ran the journal for over 10 years and retired in 2017, handing me the baton. And I have been really pleased to be able to further the work that these previous editors have undertaken. We have a Smith-Duke editorial advisory board because we have been published by Duke University Press since 2018, which is an accomplishment that we're very proud of. The board is comprised, as you see, by an internationally and globally renowned group of feminist scholars. We also have a creative writing advisory board whose work it is to help us select an award winner, which I'll get to next. What kind of work do we publish? We publish conventional, research-based scholarship, but we also publish, as I said, knowledge production more broadly understood, testimonio, memoir, creative writing, creative nonfiction, reports from the field of activism, poetry, photo essays, etc. So the idea really is to understand that knowledge is produced in a multiplicity of genres, formats, etc. We have an increasingly rigorous publication rate, which is always a source of ambivalent pride for me, because one of our major agendas is to mentor women of color, feminist scholar, knowledge producers, and feminist scholar knowledge production, which may or may not be the same thing. But we are nonetheless limited to 500 pages per volume, and our submissions are increasing, I'm proud to say. We work really hard to mentor everyone who submits to Meridians, whether or not they end up published. So I want to signal a couple of issues for you. One is that as part of our 20th anniversary celebration, I curated a 500+ page 20th anniversary reader. I hope every one of you picks this reader up, goes to the DUP Press and considers teaching it in your classes. It covers an incredible range of scholarship, creative writing, etc. from the first 17 years of Meridians. It's a beautiful volume and really showcases not only the history of Meridians and the work it's done, but I would dare say of intersectional feminism over 20 years in the US and transnationally. Recent issues that I want to signal for you are 20, number one, but now that just came out, Transnational Feminist Approaches to Global Anti-Muslim Racisms, which was guest edited by Shireen Razak and Zainab Korkman. And this issue is now available for free through the end of June. As part of Meridian's relationship with DUP, we've been working very hard to ensure that there is not exactly open access, they won't call it that, but there is free access to Meridians, particularly for those outside the academy and the paywall and Project Muse, and particularly for folks in the rest of the world and especially the global South. So this issue will be available for free through the end of June. So please, again, spread the word. We want folks to read it, download it, PDF it, circulate it, okay? Yeah. And it covers a really broad range of countries. It's more than half of the pieces are about anti-Muslim racisms outside the US, okay? So very much transnational. The next issue coming out next month or the month after May, I think, is one that was curated by myself in-house on Black feminisms in the Caribbean and the US. In the fall of 2022, excuse me, we have Feminist Mornings, guest edited by Jyoti Puri and Kimberly Juanita Brown. That will be available by September. BIPOC Europe, guest edited by Nana Osei Kofi and Shirley Ann Tate, coming out in spring of 2023, and Global Indigenous Feminisms, which I am co-guest editing with Bashuli Deb. The call for submissions for that issue is now live, and we're accepting submissions through May 16th. And I want to signal for you that we're especially interested in work focused on New Zealand, Australia, Kenya, the DRC, Somalia, South Africa, Indonesia, India, the Philippines, Palestine, Kashmir, Okinawa, and Ainu. In other words, not just the Western Hemisphere, which is how many of us here tend to think about Indigenous feminism. So again, please do spread the word, and you'll find this call on our website. Just a couple of brief mentions of the fact that since 2018, we have been giving the Paula J. Giddings Best Article Award from each volume. The first one was awarded in the NWSA to Melina Todorova, who wrote about women in post-socialist Europe being influenced by Angela Davis's work. That was followed in 2019 and 2020 by Abosede George on saving Nigerian girls, and Mayli Arvin, whose work on Indigenous feminisms and in Asian migrations clashing in the Hawaiian Islands. That was 2021, was Robert Patterson on the movement for Black Lives, and an honorable mention for Leanne Francis on her work on Black women using the legal system effectively. This year's winner, I'm happy to announce, is Rumia Pucha, whose work, The Mythical Courtesan on Womanhood in Dance in Transnational India. And again, another honorable mention for Evelyn El-Tousani on how hate crime laws perpetuate anti-Muslim racism. We also have the Elizabeth Alexander Creative Writing Award to acknowledge poets and short story writers, and et cetera. And this year's winner, which was just announced a couple of weeks ago, is Barbara Jane Reyes for her poem, Daughter Song Diaspora, which is a beautiful meditation on diaspora and expulsion. Everyone take out your phone, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, please, I mean it, and sign up for our newsletter so that you can stay abreast of our forthcoming issues, our calls for submissions, and our events. We've been doing a great deal of virtual programming, actually. One of the unexpected latent benefits of COVID forcing us out of our real worlds. So truly do follow us and you'll get to know more about what we're doing. Please take a moment to look at our On the Line feature where we do multimedia compliments to every issue, including recordings of authors reading original Arabic text from some of our pieces, a spoken word poetry performance, snippets of the movie that Rumia Pucha was reviewing in her article, etc. And we won an award last year from the Council of Editors of Learned Journals for this feature. It's really useful in the classroom. So again, I want to have you take a moment to go look at it. We've also had Meridians be used by Kay Wise Whitehead and a group of feminist educators in the K through 12 world to teach feminist school teachers, K through 12, how to use Meridian scholarship and intersectionality in their classrooms in an age-appropriate way. And that issue, edited by Kay Wise Whitehead, who's now the president of NWSA, was also awarded by the Exceptional Merit in Media Awards by the Women's Political Caucus. My name is Ginetta Candelario. You can reach me at meridians@smith.edu, and I'm happy to answer any questions, if not at the panel, because there's not enough time afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Candelario.